Welcome everybody to our first session of Film Academy presentation at FMX 2021. My name is Constanze and I'm Head of Studies of Animationsinstitut. And today in this session we will focus on graduation projects that are currently being realized at Film Academy's Animationsinstitut. The projects that you're going to be presented are not yet entirely finished, but will be 100% finished over summer or fall, and the students presenting are all graduating this summer. Before we start with the presentations, I would like to give you some background information on Animation Institute and Film Academy, because I think it's important that you know the framework within which our students are educated and the projects are produced. So Film Academy was founded in 1991, which means that we have our 30th anniversary this year, which we're very happy about. And today we have around 550 students. We teach all aspects of filmmaking at Film Academy. That means students can choose between directing, producing, camera, editing, or script writing, film music and sound design, or of course things like production design or animation, of course. So the projects we're going to be presented today are all projects that had at least 1.5 years production time. And usually the projects realized at Animationsinstitut are realized within a team. The first project we're going to look at is already an exception to the rule, because Michi Bohnstingel, the director of this film, has also done the producing and the animation of the film. So let's welcome Michi Bohnstingel and his diploma film Slouch.
Fleeting flame, a piercing flash, burning shame.
Hi, my name is Michael Bohnstingel. I am the writer and director of the 17-minute animated short film Slouch. And today I'm going to show you
how to make a 17-minute animated short in 4 easy steps.
For me, the project started back in 2019 when I had a personal and artistic and creative crisis.
Step 1. Crisis.
And the origin of this crisis actually has a lot to do with this place that I'm sitting in right here.
During my entire time in Ludwigsburg, I was making music. Making music at this place right here, the Barracks in Ludwigsburg. Some lovingly call it the only dirty place in Ludwigsburg. And that's what makes it beautiful. In this room we made tons and tons of music. Jam sessions. We founded a couple of bands. And played a bunch of concerts. So obviously we talked a lot about creativity and where it comes from. Why are some of the best artists so terribly fucked up? And does that mean that you will lose your creativity if you have a regular, happy and healthy life? Can you combine a happy personal life while doing deep and intense art? So many questions.
But I guess the best way to explain it is to listen to one of my characters, Nufti.
Nick Cave. made his best record after he got dumped by PJ Harvey. Kurt Cobain, depressed junkie, shitty marriage, what comes around the corner? Oh, never mind, it's just never mind. Oh, and look who's here. Hi, I'm Daniel Johnston. Oh, hi, Daniel, how you doing? I'm fine, thanks. Just flying my dad's airplane and fucking crashing it! The most beautiful flowers grow on shit. Where's yours?
Okay, so now that I was in my deep personal depressive crisis and I had all of my thematic foundation laid, I could go on to the next step.
Step 2. Write and draw. After reflecting many, maybe too many months on what this film should be, I settled on this basic concept. Wannabe musical legend Slouch is pushed by his songwriting demon Nufti to deep dive into his dark emotions, while at the same time being confronted with the upcoming birth of his child.
Hey, Dad?
Hey. The writing process was quite a learning experience, because usually I wait for these intense sparks of creativity in which everything just seems clear at once. However, that never really happened while writing Slouch. So instead I collected lots and lots of fragments and tried to assemble them into a cohesive narrative. Of course, then I had to turn the whole thing into an animatic. What's special about my process is that I work a lot with dialogue and sound in the animatic phase.
It's a Volkswagen. It's a Volkswagen. Okay.
The film was made during the corona pandemic in my flat, so whenever I had to do loud recordings, I was doing this.
This is a question, where's Lisa?
So I said this film is about music, but so far you haven't heard any music, so that brings me to the next step.
Step 3. Music. The script is about Slouch, the musician, who turns from a crappy songwriter into a great songwriter, which is a bit of a tall order because it meant that I had to accomplish writing great music, which is hard, and crappy music, which is even harder.
I'm so depressed, everybody hates me.
Nobody takes me. I feel so alone. I need a clone. I might be okay if you copy my DNA. I'm so alone. I'm so alone. I'm so alone. I need a clone.
The music process was very similar to the story process, meaning that I collected lots and lots of fragments. On my phone, alone in the rehearsal room,
Where did she go? Where did she leave me alone?
at home, we found song structures in jam sessions, until we'd finalized the songs during the final recording session.
Klingt jetzt auch nicht freudig.
We wanted to give the whole thing a grungy, self-made, authentic sound, so doing the recordings in our shabby room seemed like the right way to go.
Aua.
Okay Leute, seid ihr bereit für die wichtigste Aufnahme?
Ja!
One take!
Burn the witch!
But what happened? I'm very grateful that I could use this film as an opportunity to work with my friends and fellow musicians.
So now that you have your personal crisis, your writing and your music, it sets you up for the fourth and final step.
Step 4. Make it!
So some of you who know a little bit about animated filmmaking might think that a 17-minute film as a graduation project sounds like quite a lot of work. And it is.
At the beginning of the production, I had the pleasure of working with Julia Skala and Oleg Stitsenko, who designed the many sets of Slouch's world. Those designs were then built in Cinema 4D by Christian Kaufmann. Having this part of the production taken care of by the team really helped me to focus on the mise en scène, camera and editing. I made a decision of combining Cinema 4D backgrounds with TV Paint character animation. The idea was to get the personal, very nuanced feeling of 2D animation while having the convenience of using 3D backgrounds for the more than 350 shots of the film.
In order to deal with that kind of workload, I had to have a certain mindset about it, which I can best describe as taking only what I need. So that means produce only what you need, render only what you need, animate only what you need.
I animated the entire film alone, so that required a breakneck speed of animating about 40 final seconds per week. I animated chronologically, and if you take a close look, you will see how my animation gets better and better towards the end of the film. I hope it doesn't bother anybody. I chose to use lots and lots of hold frames, animating movement on 3, 4, sometimes only 5 frames per second. I also didn't have the time to do any retakes, so my animation process was very straightforward. For finalizing the backgrounds, I chose to be as minimal as possible. Most scenes only had one light source. I didn't apply any textures, but used flat grayscale colors instead. And the final look was very much a product of the compositing process.
Burning shame, lifeless ash, patches cramped, judging eyes, ropes and wigs and
In retrospect, I'm very proud of what the team and I accomplished in only 1.5 years. And I'd lie if I'd say that the coronavirus pandemic didn't contribute to me having lots and lots of time to finish the project.
So this concludes this little making of. You now know how to make a 17-minute animated short. It's not something I recommend for everybody, but if you have nothing against the prospect of sitting in your room for a year, working every day and not seeing a lot of sun, go for it. Thanks for listening, and I hope you will enjoy the film if you get to see it someday. Bye bye.
Yes, thank you very much, Michi. Hey, at least there's some positive side of COVID. You get to make a 70-minute film in 1 year. Isn't that cool? Thank you very much. It was a pleasure working with you, Michi, throughout all this time. So from Slouch's struggles, we are now turning to little Greta, who's also struggling, but not with becoming a dad, but with being a grandchild, because Greta is convinced that her granny is truly the most boring granny in the entire world. Please, Damaris Zielke and her team, the most boring granny in the world.
Hello, welcome to our presentation. Today we will share with you some insight on our diploma project, The Most Boring Granny in the Whole World. My name is Jiayan Chen, and I'm the producer of the project.
Hello, my name is Damaris, and I'm the director of our great project.
Hello, my name is Verena, and I'm the asset lead of this project.
Hi, I'm Yannick, and I'm the pipeline and CG supervisor for this project.
I have the most boring granny in the whole world. She only talks about people who are no longer here. She even collects little pictures of them. They are always grey. And you're not even allowed to color them in.
Greta, we don't do that to our passed away loved ones.
Oh, maybe it's just impossible to play anything with Granny.
When Granny Marita falls asleep on the sofa, Greta gets the idea to play funeral with her grandma. And this confronts them with some questions they didn't ask themselves before.
And this picture of a playful approach to the subject about death became the core of our story. The challenging part was to address it in an appropriately way, but still in a unique way that makes it more approachable for children and parents and adults. That's how Manuel Ostwald, our scriptwriter, and Markus Sauermann, our scriptwriting mentor, and me came up with the character of the cheeky Greta and the neat Granny Marita. And Laura Stab created very, very beautiful character designs for us. And with the help of Denise Hoffmann, who supervised the modeling and rigging, we were able to find our lovely Greta and Granny. At the same time, we continued to work on the story and started to create different versions of the animatic. And I really liked this process because it was getting a new version of the story and making a small animatic out of it and see what works and what doesn't. And I'm especially thankful for Johannes Weiland's feedbacks in this process, and of course our DOP Michael Trone. And it was a really fun part to create small sketches and concepts and to take it all apart and bring it back together again until we found the right way to tell our story and until we found the story itself.
Because the storytelling is so charming and so emotional, we wanted to create a miniature world with a handmade look that underlines the charm of the story. That is why we are very happy that we got an amazing production designer, Anna Veres, on our team. Anna handcrafted many models with a lot of love for detail, which were a perfect reference for 3D modeling and texturing. For some miniatures, I used a photogrammetry workflow. I set up a studio space with neutral and even lighting. Then I walked around several times from different angles and I shot bracketed photographs. For the processing, we used Agisoft. For the cleanup and retopology, ZBrush and Maya, and the projected photos could be used as a base for texturing in Substance Painter. Photogrammetry was very helpful, especially for organic props, like the lamp for example. But for more hard surface miniatures, we did not need to scan the geometry. It was easier just to use the photos as a reference for 3D modeling and 3D texturing. So, on the one hand, a big part of the set was handcrafted miniatures, which we scanned, but on the other hand, we created our hero assets totally from scratch in 3D, like some toys or our two main characters. In total, we had about 90 assets. So luckily we got a lot of help from other artists. For example, Steffen Oberle was a great modeling support. The tricky part was to combine the handcrafted objects with the fully CG assets, so that everything fits together and has the same look and feel in the end.
So I would like to say a few words about look development for this project. We used Arnold as our render engine and worked with Houdini and its two contexts Solaris to create our material and material assignments. Using Solaris for look development was great since it allowed us to easily export our materials and material assignments using USD. At the beginning of the project, we set up some look development scenes we all worked in. We had an HDA to easily set up our turntables. When submitting our renderings to the farm, we had an option to upload our renderings to SyncSketch. And as soon as they were done, we got a Slack notification with a link to the uploaded item. Most of our look development work was quite straightforward. We just had to use the great textures we got from texturing as our material parameters and we were done. The two main characters were the highest priority when it comes to look development for this project. They just had to look as good as possible. So in the end we went through quite a lot of iterations, and thanks to Pascal Schober who did the shading and bared with us.
We knew that our story needed convincing empathic animation to be truly drawn into the world we created and to feel the boredom of Greta and the oddity of Granny Marita. We were really lucky to have had Thomas Grumpt as our animation mentor and supervisor on board, who helped our 6 people strong animation team to breathe life into Greta and Granny. And I loved the process of getting to know the character through animation. And I just think that a lifeless Rick in T-pose is able to act out through animation is just magical. And a big thank you goes out to our animation team, Tanja Gruber, Sarah Schulz, Lukas von Berg, Laura Stab, Ferdinand Erhardt and Patrick Nittel. And of course to Thomas Grumpt, who definitely made us better animators in the whole process.
Since we were already using Solaris for look development, we decided to use also Solaris as our lighting tool, in order to maintain continuity throughout a sequence, and mainly to speed up our process of lighting, we decided to go for a sequence-based lighting approach. At the beginning, we used a tool to create a lighting template for the sequence, including all its shots. This template is divided into 4 different areas. Then we used a concept of context variables to switch between the different shots. Usually we would start out with configuring some primitive and their visibilities. And then the next step we would start to create some sequence white lights. And after we were done creating our sequence light rig, we could have a look at a different shots switching between them.
We also had an amazing concept artist on board, Charlotte Hinzmann. Together as a team with Michael Thrune and Anna Vieres, the production designer, she created beautiful lighting concepts for us, which we could use at an early stage of production. And through that, we could see what our movie would look like in terms of lighting at an early stage of the film.
We used USD as our technical foundation throughout the whole project. Especially since Solaris natively supports USD, implementing USD into the pipeline was quite easy. Working with USD was a great experience since it's super powerful and allowed us to easily work collaboratively on the same shot across different departments. So layout just starts out by importing all the assets we need for a shot. Then animation would deform the characters and animate some props. Character effects would add some special deformation for our curves. Final layout does some additional layouting work after animation character effects is done. And then we would add our lights in the lighting department. To speed up our work process and in order to follow some conventions, we needed some tools to help us out. Therefore, we used the Shotgun Toolkit framework. It has been a good choice for us since it's natively integrated into Shotgun and comes with a wide range of basic apps like a launcher, file opener, file saver, publisher, and loader. On top of that, we created some more tools, for example, to set up our scenes, check our scenes, and submit our shots to the farm. All in all, the pipeline worked really well, and most important, it helped us to work together as a team.
Of course, this is only a short summary of our whole process. There are many more aspects we haven't even touched yet. For example, the music from Hannes Bieber, which is just lovely, and the sound design from Max Hartstang and Marike Zugola. And we hope if you ever get to see the movie, you take the chance and can enjoy all the love and passion every one of our team members has put into it.
In the end, we would like to thank our mentors for all the helpful feedbacks we got, and the Animation Institute for all the support and backup. And of course, above all, we want to thank our team. We are just amazed how many people helped us with this project with such passion and dedication. Since 2019, where we started the project, our team family has been growing steadily. We also have overcome the difficulties and challenges during the COVID time due to the remote working. Filmmaking is teamwork, and we are just lucky to have such an amazing team. Now, I'd like to thank you for your time and listening today. That was all we want to share with you. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Okay, thank you very much, Team Most Boring Granny of the entire world. This was quite a large project, so us at Animationsinstitut and me in person, it makes us very happy when we see these large projects evolve over a number of semesters, and in the end, you can see that there's a finished product and that everybody is happy. It's a great motivation. So this brings us to our next film, which is called Dodo's Papa is an Engineer, and is realized by Yi Lu, and is a very personal story.
Hello everyone, welcome to our presentation. My name is Jiayan Chen, and I'm the producer of our graduation project, Dodo's Papa is an Engineer. This 2D animation short film shows us the life and the relationship between 10-year-old Dodo and her mother after her father, a big blue bird, flies away. Currently, we are still in production phase and plan to finish the film before the end of October this year. Now, our director Yi Luo will tell you more about the story and the project.
Hello everyone, my name is Yi Luo. I'm the director of this film. This is a very personal film. It's about fear and freedom, lies and protection, longing and growth. Our protagonist Dodo is a 10-year-old little girl. Her father is a big bird with beautiful blue feathers. With the mother, the three of them lived happily together in a small city in China. One day, after Dodo's father flew away from the window, he didn't come back ever since. What even stranger was, men in gray suits appeared around Dodo and Mother, spying on their apartment. To protect Dodo, her mother hid her in a mysterious magical forest. From that summer on, Dodo hasn't grown anymore. Here I omitted parts that I thought need to be seen and felt in the film, and also parts that I thought could spoil the film too much. But basically, it's already half of the plot. You could already imagine in which tone the story could be told. It took me nearly 2 years to sort out the mess in my head into such a few simple words. I reviewed the story so much because in this presentation I'm going to tell you how I developed the story. I'm going to tell you with what I started and how the story changed. Besides making animated films, I'm also a comic artist and I write stories for my comic too. I realized for me, writing stories is my way to understand past emotions and archive special memories. And through it, I know better who I am and understand why I am like this. It's like once in a while my room is all over the place and I have to tidy everything up. Throw things away which I don't need anymore, place other things back to where they belong, and package and label things which I don't need at this moment and put them into the storage room. After all this, I finally can go on to live in this room and feel much better. For example, I made a film inspired by my early one-sided love, which drove me crazy, and also another film inspired by my ideal relationship. So when I started thinking about what my graduation film could be, I finally looked at a heavy burden which I had carried with me for more than 20 years, which was the relationship between my father and me. I don't know when the image of my father changed in my head from an inventor, a mechanical engineer, whose eyes shined with excitement about his inventions, to a couch potato who is enthusiastic about lotteries. In fact, my father was very indulgent dad as I was a child, but became reprobative after I grew up about everything I bought, decisions I made. Furthermore, he criticized the education my mother did to me, which I thought it was great. So whenever we talked, it ended with quarrel and me crying. More and more, we didn't talk to each other anymore. Not really. Like, if I called home, my mom asked me if I want to talk with my dad, and I would avoid that. But as I made such decisions, I always felt bad. Because as I was a little girl, my father was the person I longed to be. So, at first, I wanted to make a film about father. In the early stage of writing a story, when I'm not sure what exactly I'm going to tell, I tend to write very free. I always start with some picture which I think could be interesting, and I build things around it. In this stage, I allow myself to fly in the space of imagination and subconsciousness. And this time I started with this drawing and wrote my first version. A young man returned to the hometown after the death of his fathers. Huge goldfishes swam in the empty flat, blowing bubbles and saying, "Now it's time, now it's time." The young man bought himself a new father at a pharmacy, and holy crap, this father looks exactly the same as his own. But there's only difference. This is the father he always desired to have. It sounds quite nice, isn't it? It's just like if you randomly choose a few words according to certain rules, you can easily form a romantic-looking verse. But whether this poem will hit your heart or not, that is another question. So I was asking myself, what will happen then? I can't write anymore. Except for the pictures of giant bubbling goldfish and buying a father in the pharmacy seemed weird and interesting. I can't make more emotional connection with this story. Therefore, there's no way for me to design more details in my mind to fill it. So I put it aside. But where I got stuck, I continued to think about this father question. What kind of father do I desire to have, actually? As I was a child, my father was seldom home. He always went on business trips. When I was 11 years old, one day my father was just gone without saying anything, and this time he was away for years. During my teenage years, he was just not there. At the beginning, I always asked, where did he go? What is he doing right now? But gradually, I got used to the life without him. Until I was 19, he finally came back for good. So I think I had always wished he could be there, by my side. The image of my father is very vague in my mind. I mean, I know what he looks like, just like me, and what he does every day, but I cannot understand what he is thinking, what kind of person he is. With this question, I wrote the second version. Since it has some elements I also used in the final one, I'm going to tell it a little bit more detailed as the first one. The father of a little girl was a shape changer. He was a tree which guards the girl while she was playing, and was a river when he got emotional, turned into a thunderstorm if he's angry. On the day he was a bird, he left home and then disappeared for years. As the little girl was growing up, she was constantly wondering, where did her dad go? What if he's actually by my side, but I can't see him? Asked the girl. Did he turn into a tree again? Or is he now the wind? One day, Dad finally returned, looked pride and arrogant. After experiencing a small incident together, the girl found how he really looks like a human. I actually like this setting and the ending. When I tell it in words, I feel quite poetic. I think there's something real in it. The images of the father brings many visual associations. You can also see the same element already in the final version of the story, like the animal symbolization of the father and the absence of the father. But after drawing some storyboard and imagining how the animation could look like, I had the feeling that there may be too many intentions what I want to express, and it may be too much like a collage, which I didn't want to have in this film. And more importantly, the changes of the father. Is this the essential reason why I want to make this film? Behind those poetic images, there are something that make me uncomfortable, which I thought it could be unauthentic. Then I realized what I thought about my father being this and that form again. I couldn't feel the emotional connection because my father simply missed most of the important moment in my life. For me, he was actually the bird that flies away. The other images are all my mother in my life. Surely, theoretically, I can make a film about some other father who could be all these kind of forms, using my emotional experience living with my mother. But that's not why I want to make this film. So I had to go deeper to dig out what was exactly the problem between me and my father. I thought maybe it's hidden in those years when he was not home. So I conducted a long interview with my parents separately. I let them recall the special days of our family. I asked them about a lot of details which I'm interested in, and I listened with my whole ear. And it was a very hard interview for all of us. I felt sorry to force them to face the sad memories again. But in the end, I found it very necessary, because after that, I understand both of them more. Also my father. Finally, this big package about my family's past was opened, and it fell all into my creative room. The amount of information was huge. I understood the ins and outs of many things and feelings, but I couldn't put everything I know into this film. It's only 10 minutes. So at the end, I extracted a series of events and feelings that are connected to each other for me. I cut a lot, I modified, and I condensed my family story like this. My father often went on a business trip as I was a child. One day he left the family as usual, and I haven't seen him again for a long time after that. My mother told me that my father went to the desert with the expedition team and didn't know when to come back. After that, many things that I couldn't understand happened around me. Sudden visit of unkind strangers, uncomfortableness I felt from the blick and words of the other adults, and often my mother was overly worried about my safety. Anyway, life had to go on. Mother gave her best to give me the ideal environment to grow up. Many years later, my father finally returned to my mother and me. The person I desired to be in my childhood, the father who loved me very much like my mother told me, became strange. It's hard for me to get close to him. Although he returned to us, he failed to return to my heart. This third version of the story is actually only narratives of events and still not a story for film. But as you can see, it's already very similar, and it has this similar structure as the film story which I told you at the beginning. And if you remember what I told you, this unkind stranger are the men in gray suits who spied on Dodo and Mother. All of these four versions seem different, but later ones are always the result from thinking about the last ones. One led to another. And you can recognize they also mirrored my process of finding what I really want to tell, from a very vague father to a very concrete one. The focus of the story seems to have shifted from father to the symbiotic relationship with the mother. However, just like the positive and negative space, the mother and daughter also mirror the shape of the absent father. And that was the whole process. What you have to know is, even if I told you all this very clear and structured, the whole working process was very chaotic. I sound smart now because I'm now at the end of the timeline of the project. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Yi, for sharing this very personal story with us. I know that you've been struggling a lot and it's been a difficult process, but from what you say, I can feel that you really took something from it, and I wish you all the best for your future. And to everybody out there, check out Dodo's Papa is an engineer at one of the festivals close to you. So the next project is also a personal experience and probably something that we all can relate to. The film is called Climax, and the name says it all. It's about climax. And Bea Höller and her team will tell us more about her project.
Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to welcome you here to our presentation. My name is Jiayan Chen. I'm the producer of our diploma project, Climax.
My name is Bea, and I'm the director and FX artist of the short film Climax.
I'm Justus, and I'm the technical director of the project. Mainly I'm responsible for pipeline, lighting and compositing.
My name is Maria. I have rigged and animated for the project.
My name is Martin, and I worked on Climax as an effects TD.
My name is Ramon. I was responsible for creating the initial Barbie model additional asset sculpts and grooming the hair of the Barbie, as well as creating its simulation.
Climax is a 3D animation short film.
I want to show the female orgasm and the diversity of the wonderful female body with abstract images.
Our main protagonist, Barbie, goes through a process of transformation. She emerged like Alice in Wonderland into a magical world, a place of temptation and joy. Thanks to the Animation Institute, we have a lot of possibilities here to try out different technologies, and we are happy to share the insights with you. Now Bea Höller, our director, and also the FX artist, will share her journey through the project with you.
The biggest problem at the beginning was to get the film out of my head into presentable form. And of course, we can't forget the main color, pink, with a lot of glitter. So, together with Daniel Labor, I started to create a 2D animatic, which I then completely converted into 3D. After that, people could imagine more under Climax. And now that I had an understandable animatic, more and more people joined our team, and that was a great moment because I love to work in teams.
This being a one-shot production confronted us with a lot of challenges, especially in regard to pipelining. We are handling every segment on its own in its own transform space and are converting back to world space in the lighting scene, where everything comes together. Of course, one has to consider objects like the Barbie or the camera, which are present in every scene and also have to be adjusted to the spaces. Not only that, but especially rendering and compositing is quite tricky sometimes, since all the objects are dependent on each other and have to stick together in the right way. Every segment is composited on its own and glued together using deep image data. Of course, again, the Barbie needs to be composited on its own. It has to fit into the environments as well at the same time. Can be complicated at times. Lighting and compositing the film is a lot of fun though, since you can completely neglect the roots of physicality and logic. It's very artistic, it's very abstract. Only keeping the focus can be a huge problem sometimes, as so much is happening in the image. Also, we have a style guide, so to speak, in order to achieve a happy, colorful mood. So we are avoiding dark colors and saturated colors, and therefore we are avoiding basically contrast. So everything which guides the eyes has to come from color contrast only. But I believe we are in a good way and we come closer to our goal every day.
Climax is special not only because of the subject, there are always new problems that need creative solutions. We have a fluid that flows through the whole tunnel and has to be artistically designed.
And I developed a tool that allowed us to take 2D animation and place it in 3D space through camera projection. It was done through extending the 2D space based on depth map that was created through a variety of blurs inside a nuke. And the resulting depth was used to create a deep geometry that we could place in our 3D scene and light it accordingly. In addition to the fluid, I also developed a setup for creating glitter.
With a lot of glitter.
And advecting it inside of the 2D generated fluid. And that gave us some more detail for shading and some more interesting lighting. Motion blur was a particular challenge since the 2D base animation didn't have any velocities, of course, so it had to be generated through smart vectors in Nuke, and that went decently well. And that required some fancy math to get into Houdini and combine with the internal velocity inside of the scene.
While the rigging part was easy, the animation was very challenging. It was hard for me to find the right timing that fits the beat, as I'm myself a very bad singer. The next difficulty was to get the animation look appealing while respecting the limits of an actual Barbie doll and by no chance let her act live, which could make the whole scene look rather terrifying than entertaining. Although Barbie is stiff at the beginning, she slowly becomes warmer and softer, so the bigger is the amount of squash and stretch on her body.
The model of the Barbie was created from a scan, which was cleaned up, repologized, and brought into a symmetrical form to aid the rigging process. While the creation of the hair groom itself was fairly straightforward, the simulation had to match the vision of the director. This was achieved by placing animated colliders by hand in order to push the hair into the desired direction. Since the ponytail was supposed to keep its shape as much as possible, only a single curve was simulated and the full hair then wrapped onto the simulated curve to follow its motion.
We made this project together as a team, and as I look back on last year, it's amazing for me to see how much we've accomplished and learned during the project.
We are not done with our film yet, but I have to say I have never learned as much as I did this year. I was able to gain a lot of experience in all kinds of areas. Directing is my absolute passion, but I also use this project as an initial start of learning Houdini mainly, but also to do a lot of layouting and shading. I had such a great team and I will never forget this time here.
So thank you, Bea and the Climax team. This has been a very large project and you've tasked yourself a lot with even learning Houdini underways, which I always thought was really, really impressive that you took on this task. We wish you all the best for the future and we're excited to see where you guys end up after you have graduated. So this was it for this session today. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions about Film Academy or Animation Institute or want to contact us about studying, feel free to have a look at www.animationsinstitut.de. Thank you very much for your attention and take care and bye-bye.